What's going on, guys, and welcome back to Friday's edition of Waterfowl Wednesday. I know I was slacking a little bit. This video is supposed to be cranked out 2 days ago, but you're busy with work and life and everything, and yeah, better late than never, I guess, right? Except when it comes to duck hunting, do not, like rule number 1, do not be late. It's a great way to find yourself being left at the boat ramp, in the parking lot, and everything like that while your buddies are off having a good time. So anyways, as you guys can tell from the title, we're talking about how to kill more ducks, how to be a more successful duck hunter. And I think there are going to be some good takeaways in this video. Whether this is your first year duck hunting, whether you've been doing it for a couple of years, whether you have 40, 50 plus seasons under your belt. Me personally, I just finished my 26th season. I'm going in my 27th, and I will say that's one thing about duck hunting that I really like, is that every year it's a challenge. Every year I feel like I learn something new. So tonight's topics, we're going to be talking about decoys, electronics, calling, shotgun shooting, and how to find ducks. So let's get started. Decoys. As you can see behind me, this is just a very small portion of what I have. I've got a lot of decoys, and why, I don't know. I ask myself that question all the time, actually. Because I am not a fan of big decoy spreads. If I run 18, maybe 20 decoys, that's like max for me. And yeah, it's just one of those things. I will say, probably after the years that I have under my belt and everything like that, I have developed the mindset of less is more, and I'm gonna explain that. So I have buddies who pack out 90, 100, 120 decoys to public land. It's a big old show. They've got multiple carts, decoys on their back, all that kind of stuff. And these guys kill birds, don't get me wrong. But I can also go out there with 8 of these bad boys and do just as well. So when it comes to California public land, I know you guys in the Midwest and maybe the South and everything don't have to worry about this, but us here in California, you guys know that our public land system is extremely crowded and extremely competitive, especially if you guys are going free roam on a refuge. It's, hey, you check in and you're gone, right? It's a foot race. And hopefully somebody doesn't come crowding in on you, but more times than not, that seems to happen. So I'll tell you what, if I've got 8 decoys in a slotted bag and I've just got my Thule seat and my dog and my shotgun and my blind bag, I'm gone. I mean, I could damn near run with that bag if I need to. Versus if I've got 100 and something plus decoys, I mean, you gotta unload those unload those from the truck, you gotta strap them down to the carts, you gotta do all that kind of stuff. Then you gotta push the damn things out there. Then you gotta get everything all set up. It's just, it's a big ordeal, it's a big show. Another reason why I'm not a fan of big decoy spreads, it's one of those things to where I like having spots and areas for the birds to land. Whether you call that a kill zone, I mean, I keep a kill pocket. I like to keep a good kill pocket. I've got open lanes for those birds to come and fly into if need be. I feel like with big decoy spreads is you're trying to pack so much into one area that you're gonna notice birds short stopping you or not wanting to fully commit or come into range. And it's just because it's too congested, right? Think about it if you were to go to a shopping center, to the mall, or Target or whatever like that, Walmart. And you pull up and it feels like everybody and their mom's there. There's zero parking. The only parking is way out back. Well, you're gonna park way out back because that's the only open parking spot. Versus if everybody else was kind of parked maybe out back and there's 4 or 5 open parking stalls right up front, you're like, sweet, right? Front row parking, here we go. Boop, pull right up. I like to think that ducks are fairly similar to that. sense to where they like having, they like their bubble. You know, they don't want to land right next to a decoy and be bumping shoulders with them or anything like that. I noticed this when we were hunting some flooded timber. Well, I call it flooded timber. I should actually call it floodwater because we're not hunting green timber like they are out there in Arkansas. We were hunting floodwater in December one year, and I was a guest, and so I'm just gonna sit back and keep my mouth shut. You know, I think that's a respectful thing to do when you're a guest. Just, hey, listen, you're just gonna show up and hunt. Well, we had this nice pocket in an opening of trees, and one of the guys just piled a bunch of decoys in there, and I mean, he just filled it up. Shoot time came, and we noticed birds trying to land in the trees around the hole, right? Because the hole was too crowded. There was no spot for those birds to land. And I told my buddy, I said, hey man, I think we need to pull some of these decoys out of the hole, you know, because everybody's like, man, why are these birds trying to land like back behind us in the trees here? You know, they're doing weird, goofy stuff. And so I told him, I was like, I think, you know, I think we either need to pull what decoys we have in the hole or put those in the trees there and leave the hole nice and open. He's like, hey, let's try it. So we did that, and instantly, like a light switch, boom, birds sucking right down into the hole. Very nice, easy, close shots, boom. That's what it took. The birds just needed to have a little bit of breathing room so that they felt comfortable enough to come in and try to land. That's how I feel about big decoy spreads. Does it work sometimes? Yes. You know, field hunting, if you're hunting a food source here in California, rice, to where you have a large concentration of birds in one area to where it looks natural, I guess that's another big thing too. Make it look natural. If you're hunting an area that doesn't have a lot of mallards, I wouldn't throw really any mallard decoys out. You know, match what birds you have in your area. And it's not hard to get online and look and see what kind of birds are killing here in California. You know, we get a lot of teal, widgeon at times, pintail, and of course spoons. So, and gadwall, depending on the hatch. So that's what I kind of tend to run. You know, you'll hear guys talk about matching the hatch, and I'm kind of a believer in that. I think if you're gonna run some decoys like me, I'm a big fan of running spoons. I'll be honest with you, because they have the white, they have that initial pop. Yes, big decoy spreads will initially attract a bird's attention, but when they hit that imaginary wall at, you know, 150, 120, even 80 yards sometimes, and they kind of pump the brakes there, you know, at what point does a big spread hurt you is basically what I'm trying to say. So if you guys want me to go more in depth on decoys later on in like just its own separate video, I feel like I can talk for hours on just decoys alone. So number 2, electronics. I hate them. I can't stand those damn things. And I don't know if it's all electronics that I dislike, but spinning wing decoys, it just bothers me. You know, I was around in the day to where the Robo Duck that was actually invented up north in Marysville, California here. When the Robo Duck first came out, it was awesome. It was absolutely incredible. And then Mojo came out with theirs, and you know, it worked for a little bit, but I think they're overrated. I think they're overused. I think they're too heavily relied on. I think it's one of those deals to where people have gotten away from how to duck hunt, and instead they throw Mojo in the ground, flip the switch, and sit back and wait. There's nothing really wrong with that, but it's just like, I don't know. It just kind of bothers me a little bit. I know they work better in certain states than they do here in California. In California, we can't run a motorized spinning wing decoy until December 1st, and I actually like that. My experiences with a spinner is, I feel like when the birds get down here to California, I think they do more harm than good. The specks and the snows don't like them. And the ducks, I mean, do they work on teal? Yeah, but that's pretty much it. You know, and it's just one of those things. It's just it's something else to carry out there. You know, it's more weight. It's more crap to pack. You know, you got to worry about charging batteries and doing all that kind of stuff. If I was to run electronics, I like electronics that cause water movement. I like the Higdon pulsator. Swimmers are cool. An automatic jerk rig puller that pulls like, say, like the motion duck system. That thing's sweet. Love it. Looks great. I'm just not a big fan of spinners. And we won't really dive into electronics all that much. It's just either you love them or you hate them. I ended up giving all mine away, I don't know, a few years ago, and I'm cool. Didn't even bother selling them. I was like, hey, you guys want them? They're like, oh yeah, sign me up. I'll come over and grab them right now. Okay, cool, they're yours. So, number 3, calling. So, calling, in my opinion, is going to vary on what state you're hunting, the overall pressure of the birds, and everything like that. Here in California, I use a teal call quite a bit, you know, just because teal are pretty vocal and they tend to respond to the calls. Except this last year, they were a little weird. They weren't real responsive to teal peeps and everything like that. And you know, mallards, at least here in this state, it's going to depend on where I'm hunting. If I'm hunting the Delta, yes, I'm calling. If I'm hunting floodwater, absolutely I'm calling. If I'm hunting like a little transition area, like say in between like a feed and a roost, absolutely. You know, running traffic on mallards per se. Yes, I'm going to be doing some calling. So it's just going to depend on what birds are in your area. You know, I mean, if you're covered up in teal or you're covered up in whatever, you know, you don't have to be blowing a mallard call until you've got no air left in your lungs, you know. And another thing that I've got with calling, hey, I've got no problem if you call. I don't think that out in the field is a great time to practice. I mean, you've got 9 months in between duck season. Throw it in your glove box. Practice on your way to work. Practice, you know, just practice, just get it down. Even if you're just doing single quacks or a little 3 to 5 note cadence or whatever, just get your practicing done before the season starts, please. Please. Sincerely, the guy next to you in the blind. And then 2, if you're gonna call, at least make sure that there's something in the air. Just don't be out there just blowing the call just because you want to hear yourself. You know, I enjoy the calling aspect of hunting, but if I've got a guy that's screaming his lungs out all day, I'll just throw my calls in my bag and just sit tight and just wait, because, you know, I mean, yes. Calling can work, but over calling can do some serious damage. Know when to call. You know, call in the corners. If the birds are coming right into you, you can give them some single quacks, but you don't have to really get on them. Calling when it comes to geese, I feel like is a whole different ball game. I think, you know, you've got to call it geese. You can't just sit there and just hope and pray, you know, living on prayers and dreams that these geese commit. So when it comes to goose hunting and everything like that, yeah, you know, it's calling is fairly important. Duck hunting, not so much. I think you can get away with minimal calling, or at least realistic calling. So next I want to talk about shooting, because I think this is one thing that isn't talked about very much. You know, like, you know, guys will talk about decoys calling and all that kind of good stuff, but I think they leave out shooting, and in my opinion, shooting is a big one, is especially those first, you know, month and a half of season. So what I do is, you know, well, let's be real here. I love to shoot. I love to shoot all the time. I am, especially my shotguns. Love it. So I'm going to sporting clay courses and I'm shooting sporting clays. I feel like that's the most realistic clay target that you can shoot to help your shooting. And if you do it, you know, say you go out you know, a couple times a month, and you shoot, you know, 100, 200 sporting clays or whatever like that. So you only go out there and shoot 50. You know, it's getting the motion, getting back into the groove of things on how to swing a shotgun, how to lead, how to do all that, right? I will say that probably the best practice that I get in the off season is shooting dairy pigeons, because dairy pigeons are erratic. They come in, you know, they flip and they, you know, twist and turn and do all that kind of stuff, and they try to evade, and it's a real living bird. So you don't, you know, it's not a clay target that's on its course. This is a real bird. And dairy pigeons are, at least for me, have been fairly easy to gain access to hunt. You know, if you go to dairies, if you go to feedlots, and just go and knock on the door and say, you know, be respectful, pick up your shells, pick up your garbage, don't leave any trash around and everything like that. But if you go up and talk to them and say, hey, you know, can I go out and shoot some of your pigeons? I would say 9 times out of 10 they're gonna say, yeah, get rid of those things. I can't stand them. You know, they crap in the feed and all that, and it just causes a mess. So, I mean, around here I had access to 4 or 5 different dairies. Unfortunately, they just sold off their cattle, and every one of them have sold off their cattle. So I need to track down some new spots to shoot some pigeons. But pigeons, man, they're a blast. They're great for dog training. It's just good overall practice of killing a live target, and, you know, something that's, you know, obviously it's not going to match the speed of a duck, but just getting in the groove of things, get your swing down, get your hold right. You know, if you're shooting a new shotgun for the season, you know, understand how that gun points, swings, shoulders, fires, everything like that. And, you know, what you know, okay, so you got your first shot. Well, what's your 1, 2, 3 look like? You know, do you have a lot of muzzle jump? You know, if they're cool with it, you know, maybe you can run some heavy loads. You know, I wouldn't necessarily go out there and shoot 100 rounds of heavy loads, especially with ammo prices these days. But, you know, just understand your shotgun, understand what you need to do in order to hold your leads and everything like that. And that way, when duck season comes around, you're pretty much already in the groove of things if you've been shooting pigeons, you know, 2, 3, say 4 days a month. Just little things like that, to where when opening day comes and you've got that first week or those first couple of weeks, boom, I mean, you hit the ground running. You know, there is no, oh man, I'm knocking off the rust, and, you know, I can't hit the broadside of a barn. I've got bent barrel days left and right. You're not blowing through shells. You know, I mean, you're killing ducks. So, like I said, hit up those dairies, hit up those feedlots, talk to these farmers and ranchers and everything like that, and just ask them if you can go out there and shoot some pigeons. Like I said, you'd be surprised on how easy it is to gain access doing that. All right, well, seeing as how we're almost 11 minutes into this thing already, I'm sure you guys are tired of listening to me ramble. I want to talk about, just real quick, about how to find ducks. And this is going to vary state to state, and it took me a little bit to understand that. So, like, after watching Matt from High Prairie Sportsman and watching Chasing Green and everything like that, you start hearing these guys say, big thing, scouting. Like scouting. That's like all you hear. You want to find ducks, you have to scout. And being from California, that was one of those things that in a weird way, it kind of irritated me, because it was like, what do you mean scouting? Right? Like, you're saying scouting is number one? I can't scout here in California. Well, I take that back. I can scout the rivers, and I can scout the Delta. But when you're talking a public refuge here in California, there ain't no scouting. Not only can we only hunt Saturday, Sunday, Wednesday out here, but you're not free to go willy-nilly to walk around and scout. I mean, you might be able to get away with it a little bit at free roam, You know, especially if you plan on hunting the afternoons, you can kind of walk around and see kind of where birds are piled up to where they didn't get pressured at in the morning. But I mean, if you're hunting a blind, you got to walk to that blind, hunt the blind, and then turn around and walk back. You know, there's no room to scout. Plus, we're only on 3 days a week. So, I mean, the bird patterns are going to vary hourly, daily. So, when these guys were talking about scouting, I'm just sitting there like, these guys have no clue what we deal with out here. You know, I mean, come out and hunt California. You know, scouting is going to be way down because you can't do it. So it wasn't, actually, it probably wasn't until I went out to Nebraska this past May, and I went out there and looking for houses and all that kind of stuff, because I'm over California. Been over California for years, so it's time to move. But that's a whole another topic there. Anyways, scouting, right? So in Nebraska, pulled up Onyx. Onyx is a lifesaver, and said, oh wow, there's a public land spot here, all within 20 minutes of where I was at. Now let's just drive over there and check it out. I'll drive over, see the sign, and no, there's like no lock gate, no check station, no nothing. Open to the public. Amazing, right? Public land is actually open to the public. Incredible. You can go out and scout these areas all year long if you wanted to. You can just walk out there and take a look at the ponds. You know, as it gets closer to their teal season or their big duck season opener, you can go out there and look and find birds. And say, well, that looks like a good spot. I'm gonna hunt here in the morning. You know, there's a whole thing called respect out there too, to where, you know, guys show up and it's the first come, first serve. You know, if somebody's out there and or if somebody beats you to the spot, they just drive right down the road and they go to another one. You know, so you've got minimal pressure on these areas, and you can hunt them 7 days a week. I mean, how nice is that? You know, you can go out there on, say, a Thursday evening and scout around because you've got Friday mornings off of work, and you find birds piling into a spot Thursday evening. Well, guess where I'm going to be Friday morning? Right there in that spot. So it took me getting out of California, getting out of all this crap, to understand why these guys were pushing scouting so hard. If you guys don't have Onyx or I think Base Map, or there's a few of them out there these days, get it. It'll show you where some of these areas are, and do some legwork. Get out there, walk around, find the water, find the birds, find how ducks are coming into the area, or how they're coming into that pond. Look for cover. Where are you going to set up? Where are you going to set your decoys? And get that get the wheels turning in the brain there. Get the mental picture going, so that when you're out there in the dark, you're like, set the decoys up. This is where my hide is. You're ready to rock and roll. Now, here in California, I mean, for those of you who have hunted it for a while, you guys know what we're up against. We've got to get a refuge pass. We've got to check in. I shouldn't even say it, but hopefully you draw a reservation. I mean, with the whole online system now, I mean, forget that. I mean, what do you have, like and I'm sure this is wrong, like 1 in 600 chance or something like that of drawing like Little Dry Creek? Yeah, I mean, the reservation system's a joke. The lottery system, you can play the lottery game and all that kind of stuff, and hopefully you get in, and all else fails, you sweat line. And then plus you've got a very large, 100 plus people at times hunting at the same time on the same piece of ground. So when it comes to California, you'll see refuges post blind averages, and take that with a grain of salt. Just because a blind hammered them the last, say, yesterday or last week or whatever like that, doesn't mean they're necessarily going to hammer them again when you're out there. And as goes for the flip side, you can look at a blind and maybe there were 3 guys in there and they shot 1 or 2 ducks. And you're like, I'm not taking that one, right? I wouldn't necessarily write it off. Understand the wind direction, understand how to hunt these areas, understand the fly lines. In California, you can sit in the main parking lot. I usually bring some binoculars with me, and if you watch birds coming out of the closed zone, flying into the hunt area, you can see their flight lines, and you can see what areas they're going, and then make your selections accordingly. I don't want to dive too deep into that because I don't want to give everybody's secrets away, but like I said, just kind of pay attention out there. You know, watch how birds fly, understand birds, look at the direction they're coming from, look at your winds. In my experiences out here, if the wind's blowing hard out of the south, I'm gonna hunt an area of the refuge that's to the north, because for whatever reason, these birds want to fly head on into that south wind. Likewise, if I've got a strong north wind coming, I'm gonna hunt the south end of the property. You know, because those birds, for whatever reason, and more times than not, are flying right into that wind. So just little tips and tricks that I've learned over the years. But yeah, anyways, so God, this has run way too long. We're gonna be 20 minutes into this thing. Anyways, yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up there. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys took something away from this video. If you guys would like me to go more in depth on any one of those topics, drop me down a comment, please. And let me know on your feedback. Let me know if you agree with me. Let me know if you think I'm full of shit and I'm wrong. It's okay, I've got thick skin, I can take it. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys have a good night, and we'll see you on the next one.